Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. So today we're going a little bit bigger. We are going to talk about a tumbler press. This is a tumbler heat press. Presses a variety of sizes of tumblers, and you can even use this for some mugs as well. This tumbler press is from PYD Life and they did send it to me. However, all projects and opinions will be my own. So here we have the tumbler press itself. We're going to take a closer look at the components and how it works, and we're going to make some projects. So I'm going to make some 20-ounce skinny tumblers in this. We're going to try some mugs in it. We'll probably put some other blanks in it just to see if they'll fit. All right, so let's start with the sizes and things that this will do. So the diameter restrictions for this tumbler press are 2.64 inches to 3.43 inches in diameter. So that is, when you're looking at buying your blanks, that's how big this circle is from side to side diameter. So that means it can do tumblers, and this is called a 30-ounce tumbler press, but it can do 16-ounce, 20-ounce, 30-ounce tumblers, basically as long as they have a straight wall, so they are not tapered, and they fit in within those diameter restrictions. So 2.64 inches to 3.43 inches. This press can do it. Now this, it could go a little bit taller than this, and I think maybe the 30 ounces are a little bit taller, but you would want to stay within like the height restriction as well. Now, mugs. You can also do mugs. As long as they're within that diameter restriction, this press could do them, and straight wall. And this can actually press 2 mugs at a time. So we will press some mugs, and you can see that in action in a few minutes. So they say that it's an 11 to 15 ounce mug, but just watch that diameter requirement when you're picking your mugs. So this is adjustable, at least somewhat, to get those that, you know, pretty wide diameter range. And we'll look at how to adjust it as well. Now, this can do full wrap tumblers, and that's what we're gonna do with these. We're gonna do the design all the way around. You will need to press twice to do that. So there may be a gap at the top when you're pressing, but we'll just roll it over and we'll press a second time to get, you know, the rest of that area that wasn't heated the first time on your mug or tumbler. Now with mugs, because of the handle is going to stick out of this top area, so you would not be able to sublimate under the handle. So that would only be something that you could do in an oven, so you would not be able to do that with this. It would just be with like these 20-ounce straight wall tumblers that have no handle. You could sublimate all the way around and do a full wrap design. So what else are you going to need? I would definitely recommend heat gloves. I would recommend some kind of heat mat to set your project on once it comes out of this press, because it's going to be hot. And speaking of temperature, this one is, the maximum temperature is 464 degrees Fahrenheit. And the maximum amount of time is like 999 seconds. You're never going to need that, so you're fine there as well. And then when we're talking about this, it does weigh like about 27 pounds. And you can see kind of how big it is. And I did have, if you're familiar with the Cricut mug press at all, I wanted to set it here. So you can see that there is a size difference and kind of compare sizes a little bit. However, this one will do some of the things that the Cricut mug press cannot. And we may discuss a little bit about the differences between the two. I think I'll do another video like mug tumbler press comparison when I have some more examples to talk about. And then you'll need your sublimation prints. So I have used my Epson Eco Tank printer that I converted for sublimation, and I printed a bunch of designs, and we are going to use some really cool tumblers. For instance, this one glows in the dark. This one color changes with heat. I have some UV color changing ones. I'm gonna do some really cool tumblers in this video as well. And then you'll need some heat tape. This is the heat tape from PYD Life as well. So I'm kind of working on a heat tape comparison as I'm doing all these videos. So I'm kind of using different heat tapes each time. And then I always like to add some protective paper around the outside, just to protect. Like, I don't want to get ink on the inside surface of my heat press, and I don't have this plugged in or on or anything. I don't want to get ink on this inside surface, so I always think like one layer of protective paper, I'm better off, So I am going to use protective paper. You could use butcher paper, copy paper in a pinch, but if you want to be better safe than sorry, you could use a layer. If you are, you know, want to roll the dice, just put your sublimation paper around, more than welcome to do that. And this is a sublimation print on sublimation paper. So I will link to everything I'm using below. So the tumbler press as well as all of the supplies, just so you can get those in the description below. If you are watching on computer, you might have to click show more. If you're watching on mobile, you might have to swipe up to see that. Now, we're going to take a closer look at this heat press first. We're going to look at all the components. We're going to look at how to set the time and temperature. And then we'll get to the exciting part and we'll make a tumbler. All right, I still do not have anything on, so I can touch everything and we can take a closer look. So this portion on the inside of here is where the heat will be. So this is your heating element, and it's connected by a cable to your control panel over here. And this is your power button on this side. So we'll turn it on in a minute and we'll set the time and temperature. Then you can adjust the size and the pressure. And how you do that is, while it's off and cold, I'm going to stick my tumbler inside. So you can see that inside there. And then we would close the handle. And we could say, okay, that's too much pressure. So we have a couple of different options. There are knobs on the front that sort of adjust the pressure. And then these knobs in the back adjust the diameter. So I could also loosen those up a little bit and adjust that diameter out. And so we want it to close tight, but of course not too tight. So I'm just going to adjust it until it fits my 20-ounce skinny tumbler. And maybe just a little bit looser. And I do like to adjust both knobs about the same amount so I can get an even pressure across my mug. And so now the handle's down. So I have closed the handle all the way. The tumbler is in there and closed all the way. You can actually try to, you know, move it within the inside, make sure it's not moving. Everything is closed tightly, and I like to get as little gap as possible across the top. You may not be able to close the gap completely, especially if you have a handle, but I like to minimize the gap at least, so I have the least amount that isn't pressed within that first press. So I like that. I like the way it's set up. So now I'm going to release it. I'm going to remove this tumbler. Still cold, haven't turned it on yet. So now this is ready to go, it's set up. So now let's take a look at setting our time and temperature, and we'll heat this up, and we'll talk about, while this is heating up, we'll talk about how to add the design to our tumbler itself, and then we'll make one. All right, so now I've plugged the heat press in, and I'm going to flip the switch to turn it on. And so first let's talk about if you want Celsius or Fahrenheit. So let's talk about how to change that. So let's hold the set button for 5 seconds. And AL1 will show on this top screen. Then we'll press the set button 9 times. And we'll get to where the top says CTR. And right now it's set on 1. 1 indicates Fahrenheit. If I wanted it to be Celsius, I would use these arrows to change it to 0. So that's how you would change back and forth from there. And when we're done, so I want it on Fahrenheit, I'm going to press this for 5 seconds and exit out of that screen. Okay, so for this tumbler, I'm going to start at 360 for 50 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and set that. So I'm going to press the set button, and the temperature at the top starts flashing. So I'm going to turn that down to 360. And I'm going to press set once I get to 360, and the bottom starts flashing, which is the seconds. And I want 50 seconds, so I'm going to press the down arrow until I get to 50 seconds. And if you hold the down arrow on either of these, it will go faster than pressing it one by one. And then once I'm at 50 seconds, I just press set again. And now my time and my temperature are set. Now the readout at the top is telling me where the temperature is at. So this has been plugged in just a few seconds. It's already at around 340 degrees. So we're going to wait for it to reach 360 and then we will be ready to press. So while that heat press is heating up, let's talk about preparing our tumbler for the press. So what we want to do is clean this well. So this is actually a glow-in-the-dark tumbler, and I'm going to put a Halloween design on it. And I like to clean mine with a lint roller. So basically what you're wanting to do is get any debris off of the sublimation surface. So I just like to run a lint roller over the entire thing. And then we want to add our sublimation print. So I have this print here, it's mirrored. And what I did is I trimmed away the white space. So this is a print that is printed from a template for a 20-ounce tumbler, but I trimmed off the edge, trimmed off the bottom, and I just left a little bit of white space down this side. So what I'm going to do is add my tumbler, and you do want to remove the lid from the tumbler, I will note that. And then the reason I removed the bottom is so I could set the print on my table with my tumbler standing up and wrap the tumbler around. And then this side is the trimmed side. And so I want to wrap it all the way around and then grab that side that has just a little bit of the white attached, and that is going to be for my tape. So now we need some heat resistant tape. We're just going to start getting strips of that and securing this into place. So we just want to secure it as tightly as possible. So we want to wrap it super tight, and as long as we cut it straight along the bottom and it's touching the table everywhere, it should be perfectly straight on our tumbler. So we can just tape that up. And I like to just kind of move up the tumbler, pulling it tight and taping that seam closed. So there you have the seam completely taped on my 20-ounce tumbler. Now, I like to also tape this bottom because I want it to be completely tight and not go anywhere. And a lot of these tumblers can be slightly tapered at the bottom. So you will want to put your tape onto your paper, press it down really tightly, getting that paper against this maybe slightly tapered edge of your tumbler. So I like to go all the way around and tape the entire thing on my tumblers. Some people don't do this. That's okay too if you have success the other way, but I personally like to tape them really well. I get the most success out of doing it that way. So now I've taped the bottom of my tumbler all the way around, and it's basically ready for the heat press. So I am going to tape once more at the top, just sort of fold that over. And I'm just going to add a few pieces to the top, not necessarily all the way around, but just so it doesn't move like when I'm sticking it in the press. And then I mentioned that protective paper. That is optional. Your sublimation paper will probably hold the ink and keep it from coming out, but I like to just be kind of safe and add a strip of paper. So to do that, I'm just going to get a strip of paper that'll go around my tumbler. And I'm just going to kind of put it on here and tape it in the same way. And I am going to kind of line up my seam just so I know where that seam is. I think I'm going to put the seam up when I put it into the press and then press it a second time seam down. So I'm going to line up that seam so I don't lose it. So I'll just tape up that seam again. And this time it doesn't have to be all the way. So this is literally just to protect my press from any ink. And I'm just going to tape it just a few strips on the bottom And then you can kind of fold in that paper at the top. So now I have at least one layer of protection around the outside so that I know that the ink from my sublimation isn't going to get on my tumbler press. So now let's head to the tumbler press and see how to press this. All right, so now it is time to press. So I did want to note when the press came to temperature, it did not beep or anything. It just sat here, held its temperature. So if you're waiting on a beep, do not. I am going to put this seam side up just so I can keep up with how to turn it when I go to turn it. And I do have my heat resistant gloves on. And then we're just going to press this closed. And once we press it closed, the timer starts automatically. So it will time my 50 seconds. So again, I'm trying 360 for 50 seconds. I'm going to flip it and do the other side at the same time and temperature, just to make sure I get the wrap all the way around and equal, you know, so the ink gets all the way around my tumbler. All right, so it does not beep when the time is up, but a light does come on. And then we're gonna open this. And I did wanna say, like, these areas get warm, not exactly hot, but the heat platen would be hot itself. I'm gonna roll the tumbler, I'm gonna close it back, and we are going to press again, 360, 50 seconds. Now it's done. Once again, lift the arm up, and this time I'm gonna pull the tumbler out completely, and I'm gonna set it on my heat resistant mat. And I'm gonna let it cool just a few seconds, and then we're gonna unwrap and see what this one looks like. So as long as you have something like heat resistant gloves, you don't have to wait for this to cool completely. And I can actually see some ink on my protective paper, so I'm kind of glad that I added that now that I can see that. So first I just removed the protective paper. Now, if there's not any ink on your protective paper, you can reuse that. So you might want to be a little more careful. I saw some ink on mine immediately, so I just ripped it off. And now for the big reveal. So I ripped the tape off the seam. Now I'm going to start peeling this back, and I can already tell it's awesome. So you can see that. And yes, this one glows in the dark. So all those white ghosts will glow in the dark once this one is out on Halloween night, filled with your favorite beverage. So let me remove this tape. And now we can turn this full wrap tumbler all the way around, and you can see just how amazing it is. Now, if you were to get really close in, you could probably still see the seam on this tumbler. I'm not really great at hiding the seam. I'm sure I could get better over time, but I can always kind of tell where the seam is no matter how hard I try. But overall, I'm super impressed with how great this tumbler looks. So I'm gonna make a few more examples with my PYD Live tumbler press, and we are going to press some mugs as well. So let's make some more projects. So this tumbler is blue until it heats up, and then it's pink. So you can actually just see my handprint right there where I held my hand. So I am going to put this leaf pattern design on it. So on my first tumbler, the only thing I wasn't extremely happy with was kind of the fallout at the bottom, because these tumblers are slightly tapered. So I'm going to leave just the small white border on the bottom of my design. I'm gonna leave that on there. So, and I already lint rolled this tumbler, just so that that bottom portion with that slight taper will be left with no pattern on it now, hopefully. And I think I like that a little bit better than the pattern being a little bit messed up at the bottom. And I'm just gonna prepare this one in the exact same manner. So no matter what kind of really awesome color changing tumbler you have, the preparation would be exactly the same. So whether they glow in the dark, they're just plain, or they color change, you can prep them for the tumbler press in the same manner. And I still like to tape it all the way across the bottom, even though I'm not gonna sublimate down there, just to hold everything really tightly against the tumbler. So it still needs to be held super tight just to make sure everything stays on the tumbler, doesn't move. So the last thing you want it to do is move, because that could ghost your design. All right, then once I have that tumbler all wrapped up, I am once again just gonna add that piece of protective paper around the outside, just because Angie likes to be cautious. I am going to use the same time and temperatures from before because I really liked the way the colors came out on that tumbler. So we're going to run with the 360 for 50 seconds and flipping it so it actually gets pressed twice at 50 seconds just to make sure it gets heated evenly all the way around, since I'm doing that full wrap. If I was just doing one side, I would only do 360 for 50 seconds with the side I wanted to press against the heating element, so it would be down, and the back of my tumbler or the area I didn't want pressed would be up, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to fold this protective paper in again at the top, and this one is ready for our press, so let's press it and see what happens. All right, so let's reveal it. So I will note that while this is hot, it will still be super pink, but it will fade back to that blue color we saw before. So you can start to see a sneak peek of this one. And I'm loving the way it looks. So I'm gonna remove all of this paper, and I'm actually gonna let this one, I'll let it cool completely so you can see it fade back to that blue color. And then we'll take a look at the blue tumbler with the leaves on it, and then we'll color change it with the heat of our hands. So let's just take a look at adjusting out for a few more tumblers and the mugs. So this is a tumbler with a handle, and it is actually way larger in diameter than the 20-ounce skinny tumblers that I've been doing. So I've been playing with the settings and the knobs on both sides of this tumbler press. And you can see it has a handle, so we need to adjust to where the handle sticks out, but the press closes. So now I could press this tumbler, and I do have this off. It is a little warm, but it should not heat my tumbler too much. And so now I could press tumblers that look like this, but again, it has straight sides. So now let's take a look at adjusting for these mugs. And I am actually gonna press these mugs because they're like 360 at 200 seconds, and I wanna see if it'll do 2 at a time and for that long period. So we can adjust to where 2 mugs fit in here. So 1 on each side. And let's just see, so this is a little less pressure, so that tumbler was a little larger than these, so I'm going to screw these in, and all you do is kind of test and see where it's at. You can screw in on that side a little bit to get a little more pressure, close in a little bit, and we're almost there. Let's just screw those in a little bit, and that's just about right. Maybe one more turn on each of these. All right, so I think I have that adjusted for my mugs. So I am going to go ahead and wrap those with the sublimation design. And I'm gonna heat up this heat press to 360 degrees, and I'm gonna set the time for 200 seconds. And let's see if it can do mugs. So I did wanna note when I turned the heat press back on, it remembered the time and temperature from the last time I used it. So that'll be convenient if you're doing like the same thing over and over again. So I'm gonna put both of my mugs in here, close my press, and this time I'll just need to do it once. So 360, 200 seconds, and then I can remove these and allow them to cool. So now that these are done, we'll just pull this back. And you may notice some singeing on if you use the protective paper, which I did, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. And I'm gonna let these cool just a couple seconds, really, really hot, and then we'll start removing the paper and the sublimation print. So with these mugs, I did a really cool alcohol ink sublimation design, which I'm thrilled with the look of it. And I actually tore the edges. So it was a full sheet of sublimation print, and I tore the edges down the side. So there's my mug, and I made them both look the same. just so we could make sure there wasn't any difference between each side. So let me remove the opposite side so you can see it as well. And there we have both our mugs, the gorgeous alcohol ink design. I'm thrilled with the way that these turned out. All right, so we made a ton of successful projects with the PYD Life Tumbler Press. So the first project I made was that glow-in-the-dark tumbler, and yes, those ghosts actually glow in the dark. Again, I'll link to all the blanks below because everyone needs a glow-in-the-dark Halloween tumbler in their life. The next one that we did was this one that changes colors with heat. So even with the heat of your hand, it will change to a pretty pink color in this case, but there are tons of options on that one. So if you don't like the pink, purple, blue combination, you can get the combination that you love. And then this last one I pressed, so I have this kind of marbled look with sort of some gold glitter running through it. It changes color in the sunlight. So when you expose it to UV rays, it changes to a different color. And again, there are tons of color options on this one as well. So if you need a tumbler in your life that is a little bit different, I think one of these 3 options might just be for you. And then I wanted to test it with mugs just to test that it would do those 2 at a time. And it did those amazingly well. And I really loved how those turned out as well. So now let's talk just a few minutes about how this compares with the Cricut mug press, because I did do mugs with this and I've done other tumblers with my Cricut mug press. So what I will say is this PYD Life press does have a broader range of sizes. So these skinny tumblers are super popular and people have made them with their mug press with varying degrees of success. So it does not close enough to get tight around these like 20-ounce skinny tumblers. So you have to kind of trick the press itself. Now, the Cricut mug press, you just turn it on and you get started. You don't have to worry about time, temperature, that type of thing. It has sensors inside that sense all that stuff. So I do like how simple it is, how easy it is to use, and the size. So because the Cricut mug press is super small and compact and easy to use, it's a really great press, especially if you're getting started. Now, if you want to grow your business, you want to expand into making the 20-ounce tumblers to sell, for family, for friends, whatever, you have a couple options. Of course, you could go with a tumbler press like this. You could go with an oven where you can wrap the tumblers. I have another video on that. However, I will say that the PYD Life tumbler press, it's way easier to make a 20-ounce tumbler than it is with an oven. So I have videos on the mug press. I have videos on making things with an oven, so sublimation in the oven, including these 20-ounce skinny tumblers. And I will link to that video below. And then you can make your own decision. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the options. So I have been successful in making mugs and various sizes of tumblers in my Cricut mug press. I have been successful making mugs and even 20-ounce skinny tumblers in a convection oven, just like a small convection oven that sits on the table. And as you have seen in this video, I've been successful making all of these things with the PYD Life tumbler press. So you can be successful any of the ways. Just depends on how much you want to spend, how much you want to invest in yourself or in your business, and how often are you going to use it. So how often are you going to use each of these things to make things for yourself, things to give as gifts, or things to make and sell. So overall, I am in love with the PYD Life tumbler press. For my tumblers, I will say that. So everyone's getting a tumbler this year, tumbler or mug, that's your choice. But I really love it for making especially these super popular skinny tumblers, because you just stick it in there and go, like I just showed you. So turn it on, set your time and temperature, and then it's super easy to make these and super easy to adjust for those different sizes as I've shown. So hopefully this helps you learn how to use the tumbler press, as well as see how you can make these amazing tumblers and give you some options that I know you're gonna love for some great tumbler blanks as well. So these are tumbler sublimation blanks, and you could use them in anything that you have that would fit that 20-ounce skinny tumbler. So perhaps you already purchased a convection oven, you're using it to make tumblers. You can get these heat changing tumblers, the UV changing tumblers, the glow in the dark tumblers, to use with your convection oven as well. So I just use them with the tumbler press, but they can be used in any of the ways that you sublimate, just like in any other 20-ounce tumbler. So I hope this helped you. I hope you learned a little something. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about the tumbler press, sublimating tumblers, sublimating mugs, any questions at all, please drop down in the comment section and ask away. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos like this every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.